So, hello and welcome to the latest edition of the AIM Search podcast. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Waqar Ahmed, the CEO and founder of Securitanium. And today, we're going to be talking about the evolving impact of AI on the cybersecurity landscape. Now, before I hand over to Waqar, with his expertise being in email phishing, this is where we're going to be focusing the topic of the podcast. So, Waqar, I'd love to hand over to you and give the listeners a bit of an insight to yourself, your expertise, and your background, please.
Thank you, David, and really appreciate in you giving me this opportunity to talk about the impact of AI on cybersecurity, which is a very big and growing concern across the globe. And before we dive into that, I'll just briefly introduce myself. I've been working in cybersecurity for more than 12 years now, in multiple countries with global companies, and I've learned a lot during that time. And as one of the things that I learned is, uh, with any new technology that comes, just like anyone uses it for the betterment of the society, there are always, malicious actors or hackers that are, looking to leverage that technology for their benefit. And, AI has been something that is, helping them in a lot of different ways. And fortunately or unfortunately, AI has those capabilities, which enables these hackers to bypass a lot of existing technology that was there to, stop attacks earlier. And we'll talk about that in more detail. But you know, we noticed those gaps as well, and we tried to come up with a product around uh, phishing detection and prevention. Because if I wrap it up, it's getting harder and harder for human beings to stop AI-based attacks. And what we need to do, and what I think future CISOs are going to do, is make that shift towards tools and solutions that use AI to fight AI. And that's what we are hoping to do.
Perfect. I really appreciate that insight. And obviously, the insight's the problem there as well. And I think it's one of the things you mentioned there that I wanted to kind of hone in on a little bit is you said it's going to be harder and harder for humans to detect AI enabled attacks. So quite scary for businesses and organizations that aren't using AI to kind of fight fire with fire. So talk to us a little bit more about how the bad actors are using AI, and if there are any kind of real world examples you can kind of give just to sort of understand the problem a bit more.
Yeah, I think that you phrased that question almost perfectly, because we need to understand this problem first, and why is it different? How is AI-based attacks different in a way that they are able to bypass those, those defenses that are in place at the moment? So I'll just give a couple of examples. So, there are firewalls in place, there are antiviruses in place, and all of that. But AI is helping hackers to tap into the emotional weaknesses of human beings. And just to give you a real world example, in 2023, there was a very big attack that involved around $25 million that were, that were scraped off someone. And what happened is that someone used deepfake technology to come up with a fake video call of a finance director of a company in Hong Kong, and somehow convinced him. Obviously, it was a very sophisticated attack which involved not only fake video but also fake audio conversion in real time that was same to that person. And he was able to convince that finance director to transfer more than $25 million into different accounts. And that is an example where your existing technologies, whether they are firewalls or they're antiviruses, they are not very helpful. And that is just one example. There are numerous examples involving attacks that are worth more than millions of dollars, whether it is using the fake technology for fake audio or video calls, whether it is using AI to craft more personalized phishing emails. So, some people, there has been an increase of more than 1,000% in the number of phishing emails worldwide, and there have been numerous reports publishing these stats. And like I said earlier, the problem is these attacks are so sophisticated that the existing technology or the awareness campaigns that we earlier used to fight these attacks with is just not proving to be enough, because the sophistication and the speed at which these attacks are evolving using AI, existing technology has to adapt to AI for defense as well.
So it sounds like there's a couple of problems there, in that the sophistication of the attacks has, increased massively by being able to tap into kind of human emotion and understand humans and their kind of weaknesses and vulnerabilities greater, but also the frequency and the number of these attacks is greater. What role is AI playing? Presumably, it probably makes it easier to initiate these attacks on a much larger scale. Is that the case?
Again, a very good question. So, which will help us explain or understand the problem. So, basically, what hackers used to do earlier is, let's say, manually uh, modify their viruses or the code of viruses to, try to bypass those defenses, or manually try to register new domains to send those phishing emails. But AI is helping them to do that in real time within seconds or even less than that, probably. So what they're doing is using polymorphism, which is a term used to, change the signatures of the viruses, so they are able to bypass the defenses. Similarly, they are registering new domains in real time using AI, which is far more quicker than a human being doing it. And what's enabling them is, like I said earlier, there is according to, someone says it's a 1,000% increase, someone says 1,200% increase in type of phishing attacks using AI. And there have been simulations, so uh, in which they ran a test in which they used AI to craft more realistic and personalized phishing emails, and asking other humans to, craft phishing emails manually. And generally, there was 50% more chances, according to the report of that simulation, that people were more, convinced by the phishing emails that were crafted using AI, because AI is better at, probably grammatical composition of the emails, generating images uh, that make the emails more realistic. Not just that, like I said earlier, they're able to register domains in real time, which perhaps also help them to bypass the technological defenses like email gateways. And I'll just take this opportunity to explain what is the solution that can help people in this, or what we are trying to do or have built. Is we are using AI to detect those phishing emails. And how we do that is we have trained an AI model on thousands of emails to detect the characteristics of phishing emails. And then if a new email comes in, instead of relying on the defenses that are probably not enough, or the humans that are, which are again not enough, we are letting AI fight AI, and the percentage of detection is more than 95%. And this is where all future defenses might eventually go. And CISOs or the CIOs need to adapt these new technologies, because, from like I said at the start, we will eventually be letting AI fight AI, because um, just not enough human capability to stop AI-based attacks.
Interesting. And I guess given the increase in kind of frequency, I think you mentioned earlier, you said like a 1,000% sort of increase. If people are being inundated and kind of spammed with, phishing emails, it's a kind of a matter of like fatigue. If you're wearing people down, although they might be sort of cyber savvy, they might have completed all this awareness and training, but all it takes is, that kind of fatigue, letting the guard down, maybe a kind of a well-timed, and obviously with AI capabilities, they can kind of time and customize the emails much more appropriately. For example, in the US, when you kind of see there might be like waves and waves of layoffs and people get notified by an email, for example, it might be able to kind of tap into those sort of fears people have. And that well-timed email, when people know there are layoffs and it's, an email from someone in HR, for example, could catch people at the wrong time. And I guess the ramifications of, a phishing attack are devastating, as you kind of outlined earlier on in the call.
And because of these ramifications and the consequences of someone clicking on an email, you have trained them to, focus for any errors. And then every new email, it's good that they are more vigilant. But the problem, it's a sort of a dilemma, is that AI is coming up with so realistic emails that the more time they are spending in trying to make sure whether an email is a real or fake, they are losing the focus from their actual work.
Mm,
And that is another aspect that we tell people, that, let the people do their job. If an
yeah.
accountant is spending half an hour on a daily basis in trying to make sure whether he is, clicking on a link is real or not, let artificial intelligence do that. Because I mean, firstly, he might not be that capable as well as an AI based solution, which has been trained on thousands and thousands of emails, because everyone might not be a tech savvy person, no
Mm,
matter how much you train them. He might be an accounts person, he might be a business person, and maybe just not able to detect. And then this time he's spending to make sure that he's not doing that mistake is making him lose focus of his actual work. And that is what we are trying to help people with, especially big organizations, and not just big organizations, even small enterprises, because they also face a lot of cyber attack, because they don't have those other solutions in place that are very good, whether it's email gateways or web-based firewalls or browser safety protocols and procedures, or other tools. So it's they are sometimes even more susceptible to these type of attacks. So, but we it's across the board. So, like I was saying, the time, the effort, and the focus needs to be at their actual work and not trying to be an expert at detecting phishing emails. And that's what we are helping them with.
I think it's so interesting from like a sort of psychological level that I know kind of years gone by when I've spoken with kind of CISOs or had people on the podcast before, and there was a big talk about adopting a culture of security, that security needs to be everyone's problems, not just the CISO and the CISO's organization. And so it's mandating training, getting everyone sort of security proficient. They might not necessarily have to be on the SIEM tools, might not have to be on all kind of the tech and security tools out there, but they need to be kind of proficient. And the time spent in doing kind of all this training and the awareness and the assessments and lambasting people that maybe might fall short of, fall for an email phishing campaign, takes them away from actually doing what's the valuable work. And we've discussed, and obviously how I've kind of pivoted my business. I think there needs to be a paradigm shift, people understanding how AI can be used to enable business outcomes and kind of emancipate the team from these sort of added responsibilities which aren't part of their core role, thereby allowing their teams, whether it's the marketing team, whether it's the sales team, whether it's the security team, to really focus on the critical, highly important tasks and allow AI to do the rest. Because from the sounds of things, with the evolution of these phishing emails, it's going to be a full-time job for not only the people training, but the people receiving the training to stay one step ahead of AI. So why not let AI fight your fires for you and allow your business to stay on what's kind of more productive, I guess.
Yeah, yes. I think it's just the writing on the wall, that the speed at which AI is evolving, it's getting harder for cybersecurity researchers to stop threats on a timely manner, let
Mm,
alone people who are not the experts of cybersecurity. So even, let's say, the analysts who do threat intelligence are using AI to detect threats in a timely
mm,
manner. So it only makes sense to let the employees of other departments have such solutions in place as well, instead of depending on their own capabilities Which, I mean, yes, it is good to be vigilant, like I said earlier, but it's just not enough to be dependent on human beings only, which worked earlier up until a couple of years ago, maybe pre 2021 or pre mainstream AI availability for everyone, but it's getting harder and harder, and you know just eventually everyone needs to shift uh, to have an AI based defense if there's an AI based offense mechanism.
Mm, mm, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's interesting as well, like talking about that kind of security culture that people were kind of championing or kind of talking about like in years gone by. The problem is that relies on kind of buy-in from every employee within the company being committed to the, the fight, the security fight. And, naturally it's a big ask. And when people are, trying to focus on their role and being effective in their role, security isn't a component that they're going to get measured against. So it's very hard trying to get everyone motivated and bought in at the same time. AI obviously doesn't require constant sort of affirmation and motivation and encouragement. It's there doing the heavy lifting. And I think you mentioned 95% effectiveness earlier. I don't know, kind of putting you on the spot, but I'm sure it's probably a question you get asked by, clients. What the looking at humans and comparing it with AI capabilities, 95% detection sounds pretty high. Just for comparison purposes, what typically you kind of experience with organizations you're working with or organizations out there that are just relying on kind of humans? What's typically the kind of number of attacks that get through the net there?
Yeah. So like I was referring to a simulation earlier. So um, people were sent phishing simulations, and the human capability or the percentage of detecting those attacks was less than 50%, or 57% of the test subjects click on those emails because it had those personalized content, no such grammar mistakes that they usually find in phishing emails sometimes. And then, so that is the percentage of people not able to detect AI based phishing.
Mm,
And if you then consider that our solution is specifically talking about those emails which bypass email gateways. So an example of how email gateways work is they look at the sender IP or their sender details and compare it with a blacklist, and or see if there is any malicious link within the emails or any malicious attachment. But what happens is sometimes, like I was telling earlier, that sometimes new domains are used or an existing valid email address of an employee is used to propagate the email to others. And in that case, those email gateways are not very effective because for them it's a legitimate email originating from another employee. And then if it doesn't contain any link, it's just a text-based email. For example, change the account number of XYZ vendor account, or I just urgently need this much amount to be transferred into my bank account XYZ or whatever. And there have been numerous examples of such attacks. And these are specifically the attacks that we or our solution is able to detect and highlight and remove from the inbox of employees in a timely manner. So, to answer your question, so human capability of um, detecting such advanced attacks is less than 50% compared to our solution, which is, if around 95%. So that is what we are, you trying to give back to the community based on our experience and our capability of connecting AI with cybersecurity to resolve this huge gap that is increasing day by day.
perfect. So it sounds like, and feel free to kind of elaborate or kind of add to any of this, but I guess the benefit for businesses then who maybe don't really already realize the sort of the value in it of kind of partnering with like an AI email phishing company like yourself is, well, probably threefold, much greater effectiveness in kind of stopping, detecting and stopping phishing attacks. Therefore, obviously, the consequence of that is saving money in terms of kind of ransom tax or anything else that kind of gets through. Saves probably a lot of money in terms of having the security team. You probably need less security professionals actually in the organization, and then not getting bogged down in their day-to-day dealing and kind of responding with this. And it doesn't need the kind of buy-in from all of the employees because this is a passive tool and technology that's doing all the heavy lifting for them. So it's removing that kind of human as the weakest link element from the chain, I guess.
Absolutely. And why I say or we say that this is one of the biggest gaps is because, for example, I'll talk about some stats related to UK cyber breaches report. So let's say in 2021, the cyber attacks that were caused due to phishing attacks was 79%. In 2022, it increased to 81%. And then in 2023 or 2022, it was more than 85%. So that tells you that even though having those defenses in place, trying to train people, raising the awareness level, the cyber attacks caused by phishing attacks is increasing and not decreasing. So that tells you the gap. And like I was saying earlier, that percentage increase more than 1,000% using phishing as a attack vector. So that tells you that all of this discussion and the crux of it, that the human training is just not enough to handle this area, which is apparently causing more than 85% of all cyber attacks. And eventually, we might just sit back and try to train or improve our AI to fight that AI based attacks.
Mm. So so I guess kind of sum that up. So phishing emails remains a common and highly effective method of kind of bad actors, attacking or initiating cyber attacks, and the defenses, or at least the kind of human defenses that are in place, are inadequate to cope with such attacks. Is that right?
That is absolutely right, and that is unfortunate. But
Mm,
uh, and the reason for that is, like you said, it's tapping on that human nature. And although we are trying to help it with one part of problem, in the sense that we are developing a solution that is able to detect phishing attacks that bypass email gateways, but still uh, the awareness is still necessary, because hopefully we will come up with ways to detect deep fake videos and voice-based attacks as well, but they still remain a concern. And that is another avenue that needs to be defended effectively. And I am if I make this prediction, that eventually at that side as well, we might we are still relying on human beings, or training them to detect and not share details. But I think even at that avenue, eventually we might need to come up with AI based solutions that are able to detect whether it's a fake voicemail or fake voice call or fake video, because eventually we are moving towards that era of AI.
mm. I think it's interesting. I didn't tap into it earlier when you mentioned about deep fakes. I think, in kind of mainstream media, people are probably aware of deep fakes now, mostly kind of spoken about in kind of pornography or sextortion cases and stuff like that. And that seems like obviously a scary kind of example of how it can get used, but I guess it's very easy for one of those things to be, well, that's not going to happen to me. I'm not on those sites, or I'm not, part of that. It won't happen to me. No one's going to be malicious. But this is giving like a real kind of real world example of how it can be used, not in such a, out at left field
Yes.
sort of way. It's something that could be used very realistically. You gave the example of the CEO or the founder of the company who there was a deep fake that was used to withdraw money. So this is something that's very
Yeah.
real, can touch, most businesses, and the human ability to discern between a real and a deep fake isn't going to be adequate to defend and detect against this. Is that right?
Yes, that is exactly right. And we can try to tell people that even if it's a it's a video call or a voice call, still try to make sure that you confirm such things by calling the person uh, you know personally, to make sure that that's the person that sent you that video or that voice. That remains to be trained, but still people, not everyone can be trained, or not everyone remembers that. And the same happens in phishing emails, that the companies have awareness managers or training material in place, but like I said, the percentage of attacks caused by phishing is not decreasing but increasing, and more than 85%. And not just myself, there are other companies who are also leveraging AI for threat intelligence, and using AI to fight those threats, because everyone now realizes that the speed and the scale at which AI can you know surpass human capabilities is uh, is something that we need to all understand, and use AI for defense as well, when it is used by hackers for offensive purposes.
Mm. So, kind of putting you on the spot a bit here, but what would your kind of response be then to if there are companies or founders out there that are saying, "Yeah, I understand this AI lark is a big problem, but it won't, won't be a problem for me with my small business, or it might be big business. We've got these antiviruses downloaded, and we've got this, and we've got some security team in play." What would be your kind of, response to companies that think and individuals that think this won't affect them?
That is a question that I've been asked commonly by a few people as well. But and what people need to realize is, sometimes individuals say that, if my email address gets hacked, what's the worst that can happen? Like, I'm not a millionaire, or I don't care about investing into defense mechanism. My business is too small for anyone to get anything if I get hacked. So the issue is not how big your bank account or your business is. The issue is that identity theft can be used to leverage your email address or your business to be part of a bigger cyber attack. So what usually happens is, when someone hacks an account, they don't usually transfer the money into their own account, because obviously there is a possibility that they can get tracked. So what they usually do is, uh, transfer the money into different hubs, and that eventually lands into someone they own. And the more bank account details or email addresses that they have hacked, they can leverage those to transfer that money, and you can land into a legal battle in trying to prove yourself not guilty. And that is what people, not just businesses, everyone needs to understand, that they need to keep their information secure. They don't need to share a lot on their social media. They should keep their PII, or personally identifiable information, especially their emails and their passwords, secure, because it's not just about money or how much is in your bank. It's about identity theft that can land you in, part of a bigger cyber attack, and which might lead to legal problems.
Mm. And if people, are kind of listening to that and kind of waking up to the risk, where would you kind of signpost for people to kind of head to get more information on this?
So obviously, we try to explain this problem briefly in short videos that is available on our website. We have a few white papers as well. But uh, if they want to learn more, they can obviously reach out to us on LinkedIn, or through our website at info@securitanium.com. But like I said earlier, for businesses, uh, it is inevitable that they need to adapt these changes that is happening, and people using AI for all different purposes, which can be good or bad.
Mm. No, perfect. And I guess just to kind of wrap up with a bit of a summary, obviously we've covered quite a lot on here. So I guess to start with, we've had an introduction to kind of Waqar. I understand a bit about him and his expertise and his background. We've kind of moved on to email phishing, which is the specific area that Waqar's company, Securitanium, focuses. we've kind of learned that phishing remains a prevalent and an effective way of bad actors initiating cyber attacks. Work has kind of explained to us how existing defense isn't adequate to detect to defend against such attacks. Organizations that rely purely on kind of human security teams fall very short, as demonstrated by the phishing campaign we spoke about here. So, with all that being said, Waka's obviously given a good overview as to what the problem is with kind of phishing attacks and how kind of AI capabilities such as those offered by Securitanium can help organizations defend against such attacks. In case I've missed anything off there, or there's anything you wanted to elaborate on, Waka, I'll hand over to you for any final thoughts.
I think you summarized it pretty well. I just would like to add a small punchline that I usually tell people to help them understand what we are trying to do. So earlier there used to be firewalls that just looked at the uh, IPs and ports, and they are now referred to as legacy firewalls. And the new firewalls are referred as next generation firewalls, which can also read and analyze the packets. So what we say is we are sort of building next generation email gateways that don't just look at the sender IP and domain like legacy email gateways, which are probably getting obsolete in the face of these advanced attacks.
Mm,
So our sort of AI-based solution is sort of a next generation email gateway that can read and analyze and understand the content of the emails as well to detect phishing threats and try to timely prevent them.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate that addition there, and Waka, I really appreciate you taking the time. I've learned a lot on this podcast, and I hope the listeners that have listened here have kind of learned something, and hopefully it kind of prompts some people to kind of reach out and learn more from you. So once again, thank you, Waka. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It was an honor to be, part of this podcast, and really great sharing all of that information with you. And hopefully, people will also be able to get something out of this, and hopefully, we will be able to help them defend themselves in the face of these attacks.
Sounds great.
Much